Ever seen those beautiful websites with images smoothly sliding one after another? They look professional, right? But guess what? You can build one right now in just a few steps. Today, we will dive deeper into JavaScript and introduce you to conditional statements. So without further delay, let's get started. Before starting, as you might have noticed, our pop-up is visible by default. You may have already fixed it, but for those who haven't, simply add the appropriate class to the div elements and decrease the z-index of the pop-up. This should fix it. Now, under the main element in HTML, let's add a div that will contain a title, an image container, and another div for the buttons. Let's give it a class of image slider. For the buttons, add appropriate classes and name them accordingly. Inside the image slider container, let's add 3 image tags. In CSS, we first set the max size of the image slider to be the same as the main element for balance. We display its elements as flex and adjust everything properly. For the image slider container, we set its width to 100%, give it an aspect ratio of 4:3, and position it as relative. We need this position to make the images absolute. The key to a slider, at least in our case, is to stack the images on top of each other. Then, when clicking the buttons, we remove the top one to reveal the next or previous image. That's why we set the position to absolute. There is a side-to-side variant, but we won't cover that in this video. What would happen if the position were not absolute? Let me know your opinions in the comments. Now, the images in the slider will be styled just like the image inside our image section. But, as we said, we add position, absolute, and adjust it with top, 0, and left, 0. I have to mention too that the parent element should not have an overflow hidden because we will add drop shadow to each image. In JavaScript, let's define the elements we need. The images, the buttons, 2 of them, and a tracker to keep track of which image to show. To define the images, 3 of them for now, instead of using document.querySelector, we use document.querySelectorAll. What's the difference, you ask? With query selector, we get 1 element per variable. If we were to use query selector here, we would need 3 separate variables. With query selector all, we only need 1 variable, but that variable holds all 3 elements. Yes, we can store multiple elements inside a single variable. We call this an array in JavaScript. To declare an array, we write the array variable name, followed by an equal sign and square brackets. There are several ways to add elements to an array, but here we use querySelectorAll. This selects all elements matching the query and stores them inside our array. To retrieve an element from an array, we use its index. The index is the position of an element inside the array, and in programming, it always starts at 0. So, to retrieve the first element of an array, we write the array name, followed by square brackets and 0. But before diving deeper, as always, let's understand the logic behind image sliders. We have a tracker initialized to 0. As we move to the next image, we increment the tracker by 1, and as we go to the previous image, we decrement it. Then, we render the correct image. What if we're at the first image and try to go back? A negative tracker wouldn't make sense, so instead, we move to the last image in the array. To get the last element, we use the total number of elements and subtract 1 to get the correct index. Say we have 3 elements inside an array. The last element would be at 3 total elements minus 1, which is index 2. We do the same for the next button. If we're at the last image, we reset the tracker to 0. All of this sounds good, but how do we actually do it? Don't worry, I got you covered. This is where conditional statements come in. Conditional statements are blocks of instructions executed only when certain conditions are met. If the conditions are not met, the program simply skips that block of instructions. In JavaScript, we write if followed by the condition inside parentheses, then curly braces containing the instructions. We can have multiple conditions by using else if for related conditions and a final else if none of the previous conditions are met. Now, to display the correct image, we declare a function that compares our tracker and shows the right image. Inside the function, we write 3 conditional statements, one for when the tracker is 0, another for when it is 1, and a default else for any other value. Inside the blocks, we simply toggle the class hideSliderImage on the elements. Don't forget to create a rule set for that. To make the effect smoother, we can use setTimeout with 200 milliseconds to delay the removal of the hideSliderImage class. And there you have it, a fully functional image slider. It may not be the most optimized way to create a slider, but it was a fun way to introduce you to new concepts and knowledge. However, this approach could get trickier and messier if we add more images. It's a lot of information at once, and you may not get it all on the first try. Feel free to rewatch the video as many times as you need and ask if you have any question. In the next video, we'll explore loops and clean up our code. We also have a surprise project that we'll implement on our website to practice using loops. For now, stay safe and keep learning.